Matt.
Follow Matt on Twitter and Instagram at Matt Schneidman, or use the talk and text line at 1-414-799-1973.
If I'm in this crummy situation, let's make content out of it.
The Matt Schneidman Show is presented by Potawatomi Sportsbook, a new era in sports betting.
Never go corporate, always go local.
Now with Doug Russell.
Doug, that's why you need to focus and you do everything we say.
Here's Matt Schneidman on the game.
I think me and Matt have a much better feel for each other.
You hear that man in the intro? His name's Jordan Love. He begins the conversation on this show today. The Packers just like having injury scares on the last play of practice, it seems. Yesterday, it was Christian Watson. That was way more significant than the one today. Christian Watson practiced today, so he survives the injury scare. Matt LaFleur this morning called it a big-time injury scare, but Watson is fine. As he said after practice yesterday, he would be fine. Now, on the last play of practice today, I didn't see exactly how it happened. I saw Jordan Love on the ground. I saw Lucas Van Ness and an offensive lineman who I forget near him also on the ground. But Love came up a little gimpy, and anytime the quarterback with the red jersey is down on the ground, something has gone wrong. It was obviously inadvertent. Everyone knows you're not supposed to touch the quarterback, a $220 million quarterback at that. And on the sideline, Love was grabbing the back of his left leg, his calf area. Brian Engel, Flea, the Packers head trainer, was playing with Love's left knee. Love was walking gingerly on the sideline. It didn't seem to be anything major, though. And sure enough, shortly thereafter, Jordan Love starts jogging off the field after the huddle breaks. He's walking without a limp. And he was only in the locker room for a little bit. He didn't talk today, and he won't practice tomorrow. Or I shouldn't say he won't practice tomorrow. The team won't practice tomorrow because they're flying to Cleveland, or at least they won't have an open practice. I don't know if they have a walkthrough or anything. So we won't know the prognosis until we see if he's playing on Saturday. And remember, we've talked about it before this week. Matt LaFleur implied earlier this week that any starters who are dealing with any maybe a little extra nicks and bruises won't play on Saturday if they would play through those things during the regular season. Does this mean Jordan Love isn't going to play? Or are they going to be extra cautious? We'll see. But I saw Jordan Love in the locker room, talk to him for 5 seconds about something completely unrelated, and he was laughing in good spirits, and I think he's okay. So another crisis averted. But I think the Packers would like to put an end to the let's finish practice every day with an injury scare situation.
And we don't have another media availability with Matt LaFleur to ask him before Saturday either, do
Correct.
we? So I guess
post-game Saturday is going to be the next time he talks.
So I guess we're going to find out around 3:25. Well, we'll find out before that, but that's when kickoff is here in Milwaukee on 97.3 The Game, your Packers flagship station, and the flagship of the Matt Schneidman Show. What's that?
It might be then, because Matt LaFleur did say that his goal is to get everybody dressed for the game. And I remember my first season covering the team in 2019 when they played the Raiders in Winnipeg. Aaron Rodgers dressed for warmups in that preseason game, but he didn't play. So even if Jordan Love dresses, I think it will be around 3:25 if they get the ball first. It might be a little bit later than that.
3:31.
3:31 for us to see if Jordan Love plays. But regardless, I don't think it's too much to worry about.
Well, which is obviously good news. And you never want to see your franchise quarterback. I mean, there's a reason that they put the red jerseys on the quarterbacks. I mean, I think when they began football, they probably didn't, but at some point they figured out pretty quickly that, maybe it's not necessary to hit the quarterback during practice. So then they put, in the Packers case, the red jerseys on. I think they use the creamsicle, just a different color jersey. They had the creamsicle in Tampa Bay, for example. He's a black jersey for the Arizona Cardinals, so you wouldn't put a red jersey on the quarterback. Just something different to say, do not hit this guy, because as the quarterback goes, oftentimes that's how your team's offense goes. And it's just not worth the risk. And it goes back to maybe the conversation that we had yesterday. What is worth the risk? What is not worth the risk? You can get hurt doing anything, just about. Freak injuries happen all the time, whether it's in practice, whether it's in games. But I think for a lot of people, it's about mitigating that risk and not exposing your, key members of your team unnecessarily, I suppose.
For sure. And it's still to be determined, or maybe it's not to be determined. Maybe Matt LaFleur and his staff have already determined how long the starters are going to play. It's to be announced, I should say.
I don't even know if it'll be announced. It'll just be, okay, they're done.
And Matt LaFleur basically said it'll be a feel thing. That's the standard Matt LaFleur not giving an absolute answer. But this time I don't think there is kind of an absolute, because sure, the plan right now could be to play them only a brief amount, Jordan Love and the other starters and the starters on defense, minus the ones that are banged up. But if he sees something that he likes the first drive, he could take him out. If he thinks they need 3 drives to kind of work through some things, maybe they play 3 drives. It is to be determined in that sense. So it'll be interesting to see how long they play. I still think it is risky alone playing Jordan Love, regardless of who the offensive line is. But the risk factor is amplified, as we talked about yesterday, without Zach Tom as your right tackle. Zach Tom has been participating in team drills the last couple days, the last 3 days, but he will not play on Saturday, Matt LaFleur has already said, because he only has 3 11-on-11 sessions under his belt after working his way back from that torn pectoral. And that's why the protection was so bad for the first couple weeks of camp, because you didn't have Tom there. And he and Elton Jenkins are your 2 best offensive linemen. And if Zach Tom's not playing, that could be dangerous. I know Deshaun Watson's not playing. I think I read somewhere maybe 10 Brown starters are playing. I don't anticipate Myles Garrett to be one of them. But if you see Myles Garrett in uniform, take Jordan Love off the field. Yeah. Or don't even put him on the field.
Don't even put him on the field. Don't put him on the field. Come on, don't do that. And, Jordan Morgan's also not going to be playing either.
Correct.
He's dealing with a shoulder injury. So there's your starting right guard, or at least as of right now, your starting right guard that's not going to play. So, yeah, I mean, if Myles Garrett is out there, I mean, if you're Kevin Stefanski, I mean, what are you doing, number one?
Have fun, Sean Clifford. Enjoy.
Right, yeah. Yeah, exactly. But I can't imagine. And Jordan Love has already said that, he hopes that they get enough of what they need, meaning the coaching staff, that he doesn't have to play in the other 2 preseason games. So it's not like this is necessary for the season, and the Packers need to see what they've got with Jordan. They know what they've got with Jordan Love. They just, I think want to see him at full speed, because they haven't gone full speed yet. Nobody has.
You bring up Jordan Morgan. I'll be interested to see who starts at right guard. I'm anticipating it'll be Sean Ryan. But in the first play of team drills today, I think it was the first play of 11-on-11, Sean Ryan had a false start. And so what the Packers do is if someone false starts, they immediately get pulled from the drill. So Jacob Monk, the rookie 5th rounder, I believe he was, not a 6th rounder, he was a 5th rounder. He replaced Sean Ryan with the starting offensive line, and he stayed with the starting offensive line. So 1 false start on the first play of team periods, and Jacob Monk was in there for, I believe, what was the rest of the day, unless I stopped paying attention for a little bit, which is not out of the realm of possibility. So will Monk start not tomorrow, on Saturday? Will Sean Ryan start? Elton Jenkins got a vet rest day today, so it was Royce Newman at left guard. These preseason games are good, not for determining who the starting offensive line will be, but for determining who spots 6 through 10 on that offensive line depth chart will be. These games really help with our 53-man roster projections, the first of which for me will come out on Monday after the game, I believe, because you get to see who's second up, who's third up. You don't always have to try and analyze and pay attention to which backups are playing well. You can just read what the coaches think by watching who they put out right after the starters. So while we may think Caleb Jones has the leg up on that swing tackle battle, if they put Andre Dillard and Kadeem Telford out there as, the next 2 tackles out, well, I guess one of them would be the first up since Zach Tom's not playing. So if the first 2 are Rasheed Walker and Kadeem Telford, then the next 2 are Andre Dillard and Caleb Jones. Kadeem Telford goes ahead of the other 2 on my 53-man roster projection. So keep an eye on those. It's not the most exhilarating stuff. We spend so much time this time of year focusing on who's going to be the 6th wide receiver and the 5th linebacker and all that stuff. And then you get to week 8 of the regular season and you're like, all those guys I obsessed over during the preseason, I haven't said their name in 7 weeks.
Mhm.
But guess what? That's the fun of the preseason. That's part of covering the team. Our job's to cover every player on the team, not just the top guys. So it'll be interesting to see who gets what amount of time. LaFleur did say today Sean Clifford will play more than Michael Pratt. I think we could have assumed that.
Sure.
That to me says, and we could infer this based on the fact that Sean Clifford has always been second up and with the twos, that Sean Clifford is fairly safe right now in the backup quarterback role. Because if they wanted to see Pratt and Clifford equally, that would lead me to believe it's more of a competition. But if they want to give Clifford more snaps, that to me says we want him to have more preparation in case Jordan gets hurt. They don't want to take snaps away from him and give them to someone they think is going to be the third string quarterback.
How open do you think the backup quarterback conversation ever was? I mean, I know that Sean Clifford's only going into his second season. Michael Pratt had some success at Tulane, but he's a rookie. You've got all of that extra time spent in the meeting rooms with Matt LaFleur's offense for Clifford as opposed to Pratt. But, does Pratt have a future in Green Bay, in your opinion?
Sure. Yeah, I think he's cut from a little bit of the same cloth as Clifford in that they're both fearless and unafraid to let it rip. And I don't know how many times Matt LaFleur has brought up the sequence from the preseason opener last year when Sean Clifford throws the pick 6 against the Bengals in his hometown of Cincinnati and then comes right back and leads them on a scoring drive. It's that moxie, that short memory, the ability to kind of overcome adversity that Matt LaFleur likes. I remember talking to Brian Gutekunst on the phone last offseason and talking about Jordan Love and why they were confident he could be the guy. And the first thing Goody brought up to me was how Jordan Love stuck in there and handled adversity and pressure in that Kansas City start in 2021. These coaches and these executives love when a guy can kind of make it through the other side of some adversity. And it's not all butterflies and rainbows. There are some rocky waters, and they can come out the other side, whether it's Love, Clifford. We saw some interceptions from Sean Clifford early in camp. He's cut back on those. And he said today to Rob Tomovsky, I believe, when Rob was talking to him, Clifford said something along the lines of, I'm paraphrasing here, those first couple days when he was with the ones, his head was spinning. He was overthinking. But now as he's gotten a chance to kind of settle back in, maybe behind the scenes a little bit more, I'm not saying that was the necessary, sole reason for why he threw all those interceptions, but he's become more comfortable. Family night with his last couple weeks of practices, concluding with family night and coming into this week, he feels he's back to his normal self. And I think he's got a pretty safe hold on that backup quarterback job right now.
I ask these questions then fully realizing that if we're actually discussing whether or not either one of those guys, Pratt or Clifford, actually gets onto the playing field after Labor Day, Packers are probably in trouble.
Yeah.
I
think I can agree with that.
Yeah, those are the last guys that you want to see play. And I know that it's natural, it's human nature. I mean, I asked you the question for crying out loud, and we've been talking about the backup quarterback position for a couple of minutes now. But I mean, a lot of fans want to see what the backup quarterbacks are going to look like because for the last 3 decades in Green Bay, you haven't seen the backup quarterback a whole lot on the field, except for in the preseason. And, it's a great problem to have.
And Brett Hundley.
And Brett Hundley and Seneca Wallace for a game. And I think Scott Tolzien may have started a game when Matt Flynn started a bunch of games for the Packers when Aaron Rodgers was injured. So, yeah, I mean, there have been a few. Brett started all, 15 seasons consecutively. Aaron wasn't able to do that. I don't think any human being could possibly do that. So we've seen a couple of other guys. But by and large, I mean, when Matt Flynn was the starting quarterback, when Aaron broke his collarbone in, 2013, I mean, they went a month without winning a game. So you don't want to see that. Now, Aaron came back in the last week of the season, found Randall Cobb streaking down the left sideline and lost Chris Conte in the process and wound up scoring the game-winning touchdown against the Bears, and they won the NFC North that year. But, I mean, that's what made it one of the classic Packers games of all time. But they went a month that season in the weeds without a starting quarterback, losing every game for a month.
Hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
Sure.
That's the motto.
Yeah.
The one the Packers hope they don't have to kind of enact. But it's always good to have an insurance policy.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's not going to pay you 100%. It's not Aflac. It's not going to, the duck isn't going to come up there and just hand you cash, but maybe you can win a game. And when I say that the Packers didn't win a game in a month, one of the things that enabled them to win the NFC North that year wasn't a win. It was a tie that Matt Flynn engineered in November of that year. And that tie allowed the Packers to go into week 17, and it was winner take all. It was winner goes to the playoffs and wins the division. The loser stays home. And because of that tie that Matt Flynn was able to get, Packers were a playoff team that year. So sometimes it happens in weird ways.
Backup quarterback is one of the position battles I'll be watching on Saturday and throughout the preseason games and joint practices the Packers have the next 2 weeks. I have a story coming out tomorrow morning on The Athletic with 5 position battles you should watch, with some quotes from guys and details about those battles. Quarterback's one of them. After the break, we'll start touching on the next 4. See what you all think. 414-799-1973. The Nicolay Law Talking text line. Call in, text in. We want to get your thoughts on what you're looking for in the preseason games, what you want to see, how long you think the starters should play, if at all. Spoiler, they're going to. This is the Matt Schneidman Show. Day 4, I believe it is. Season 2, right here on The Game.
Yeah, we can two-step. Put your boots on, baby, we can do that. Girl, cut a little loose, you can move that.
Thursday, August 8th, episode 4, season 2. We appreciate everyone for listening. Preseason week 1 is here. Saturday. I think the game's at 3:25 Central.
It is. Packers game day starts at 11 a.m. with me.
On what station?
Well, it's all over the state on the Game Radio Network, but our Milwaukee flagship, of course, 97.3 The Game, and on the iHeartRadio app.
Fantastic.
We're live this year from the new sportsbook at Potawatomi.
Ooh.
It's really nice.
I'm going to have to make a trip down there at some
You
point.
should. I did a site check yesterday, and we'll do an audio check tomorrow from the new radio studio that they have there, which is also immaculate.
That's a perfect time to say the Matt Schneidman Show is presented by Potawatomi Sportsbook, a new era in sports betting.
It's a perfect time for it.
I can't wait to get down there and check it out, not only for the viewing experience, but for the
Come on down. We'll
food,
feed you and
right?
everything. Yeah, we'll feed you and everything.
The food.
Yeah.
Mom, if you're listening, I won't be going there to bet on sports. Wink, wink. Anyway, preseason week 1 coming up on Saturday. Now is the time of year when the starters take a back seat to the position battles deeper down the depth chart. Let's go through a couple in a little bit of depth that we'll be watching on Saturday. We talked already about Sean Clifford and Michael Pratt, the backup quarterback competition that I think Sean Clifford has a fairly comfortable upper hand on as we speak. I anticipate he will eventually seize that role, get that role. Who knows if he'll hold on to that role throughout the season. But number 2, one that's been entertaining to watch during camp with a couple of young guys, the second starting safety spot. I guess that's not deeper down the depth chart, but you got what I'm saying.
Mhm.
Xavier McKinney's obviously starting at one spot, and it's not necessarily at free safety or at strong safety. The Packers have preached and really do think that these guys are interchangeable. It'll be between Javon Bullard, Evan Williams, and Anthony Johnson Jr. Who knows if Ketan Oladapo was healthy to start camp, if he would have been in that battle. He's back in practice, but I think he's just got a little too much ground to make up. Maybe he contends for that role as preseason and the season goes on, but for now, it's between Bullard, Williams, and Johnson, and I really think it right now comes down to Bullard and Evan Williams. Evan Williams has been an interception machine, just the way he breaks down plays for the media after practice. Pretty insightful. Sometimes not always easy to understand just because he's so football jargony, but he's been an interception machine, had that really nice interception of Jordan Love to end practice yesterday, the play on which Christian Watson got hurt. And then Javon Bullard I can't remember if he's had any interceptions, but he's like a heat-seeking missile out there. One's bound to come. He's going to make plays, and he's the guy who's probably got the most starting reps alongside McKinney. Entering camp, we figured he would be the guy because he's the rookie second-round pick. I anticipate he'll start on Saturday, but LaFleur did say it would continue to be a rotation.
Does it concern you, or should it concern fans, and when we're talking about Bullard or Williams or even Oladapo, that they're all rookies and they're all vying for a starting spot?
Who do you want, Jonathan or not Jonathan Ford? Well,
I
guess Jonathan Ford.
No, I mean,
because
it's just a question in general. Because Rudy Ford,
Rudy Ford's real name is Jonathan.
Oh, I guess I didn't realize that.
I was thinking Jonathan Owens and then thinking Rudy Ford, and I put their two names together and ended up still saying someone's name.
The answer is not necessarily because we haven't seen them play NFL football yet.
Right. I think, the Packers are willing to go through the growing pains of getting younger at the position. This is what they're going to have, and I think they think at least one of those guys can be an immediate piece. I don't think there's concern about it. There are going to be rookies that are asked to start all across the league. And I think they're really confident that McKinney can kind of bring whoever along. Everyone has praised tenfold Xavier McKinney's leadership and what he's been like in the building between the white lines. So concern, I wouldn't say concern, maybe cautious intrigue, cautious optimism. I do think we'll see a lot more of what these guys are made of during preseason games. Bullard and Williams and Johnson are going to play a lot. Anthony Johnson Jr. played more than 300 defensive snaps last season. So we've already got a pretty good sample size of what he can do. Made some plays last year. But I really do think it's either going to be Bullard or Williams. And listen, we've seen alignments during camp where Evan Williams is the deep safety and Javon Bullard's in the nickel, with Keyshawn Nixon also on the field.
Mm-hmm.
So he's probably more apt to play down low in dime or nickel. And we could see maybe them interchanged in that role too. I think it's hard to pinpoint what the lineup will be because coaches and players have talked about the versatility. Everyone's versatile. We'll see once the season actually starts if they are going to play these guys at multiple positions. But no, I wouldn't say concerned or wary. I mean, maybe it's more of we got to see them do it, but I think the coaches are fine with it. Otherwise, they would have brought in a veteran safety by now.
Well, but they haven't always.
Right, but this isn't like last year. The entire offseason, what were we saying? Are they going to bring in a veteran wide receiver? Are they going to bring in a veteran wide receiver? Last year was more so about letting the young guys figure it out because there wasn't exactly that realistic vision of a Super Bowl yet if you hook them up to a lie detector. So they were willing to let Jordan Love and the young receivers figure it out. Now they know a Super Bowl is within the realm of possibility. So I don't think they would just go to the safety position and say, let's let the young guys figure it out. We don't have to win this year. It's about building. Well, I think it's win now, win now, win now. So they have to be confident that these safeties can deliver right now.
Right. And when the last time that they brought in a veteran wide receiver, it was Sammy Watkins, and that didn't work out. But they also had Aaron Rodgers still as their quarterback. So, yeah, there were still a lot of young wide receivers at the time, but they didn't get as young until the next season. And Sammy Watkins obviously was a spectacular flame out in Green Bay, unfortunately, as he has been. I like Sammy Watkins a lot. He just hasn't lived up to being the number 4 overall selection when he was drafted so many years ago. And that's unfortunate for him. I know he's had some injury issues as well. But my point being is that last year, maybe the difference was the Packers didn't have any money because they had so much dead cap money that they had to carry. It's a little bit less this year. They could have, and maybe they did. I mean, they spent money on Xavier McKinney. They spent money on Josh Jacobs, for example. So maybe that's where they spent that capital, whereas otherwise they could have brought in maybe a veteran safety. All I'm saying is it's just something for me to keep an eye on because I know it's a position that the Packers have had issues with over the years. They've had some great ones. Leroy Butler, Nick Collins. They've had some great safeties. One of those guys is in Canton. I think Nick Collins could have been on that trajectory if he hadn't had the injury that he had that ended his career prematurely. He was a spectacular player for the Packers in the time that he was here. But they've had issues at safety over the years. And yes, bring in Xavier McKinney. He had all the intangibles. In his 4 years with the New York Giants, 2 of those years he was a team captain in the Packers. They love that makeup, and that has borne out of everything that we've seen from him and what you were talking about, what everybody in the building is talking about with him. For me, it's just everybody else is a rookie, and except for Johnson. But those other 2 guys that you're talking about, I mean, Williams and Bullard and Oladapo, I mean, they're first-year players, and sometimes you don't know what you're getting from first-year players. So it's just, for me, it's just something to keep an eye on.
Sure, for sure. Another one I think we should keep an eye on is the battle for the 6th wide receiver, assuming they take 6. The first 5 are locked in. Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, in no particular order, Dontavian Wicks, Jaden Reed, and Bo Melton. Those 5 are making the 53. The initial 53, as we like to say.
Right.
The 6th one, I think, is between Grant Dubose and Malik Heath. Now, Grant Dubose was drafted in the 7th round last year. Malik Heath was undrafted. Malik Heath made the team. Grant Dubose did not. He was on the practice squad all year, I think. I don't know if he had any elevations, but bottom line is Malik Heath was pretty much above Dubose in the pecking order last year. Dubose didn't play really in anything until the 2nd preseason game last year. He was hurt, so he was behind the 8 ball from the jump. This summer, Dubose has been a guy who's stood out. He's made a handful of nice plays. Malik Heath has been more quiet, and that's not to say he's had a bad camp, just like we were talking about with Luke Musgrave and maybe Christian Watson at times. Just because you're not seeing their name in highlights or tweets all the time doesn't mean they're having a bad camp. Malik Heath, one of the reasons the team likes him is because of his blocking ability. He had that block in the Cincinnati game in the preseason opener last year where he carried a guy out of bounds blocking for a Sean Clifford read option, I believe it was, if I remember correctly. That's what they like about him. And then he's had some plays in the Chiefs game where he broke some guys' ankles. The Giants game where he caught the, at the time, game-winning touchdown before Tommy DeVito got his 15 minutes of fame and drove down in the 2-minute drill. But you have to remember something about these bottom of the depth chart guys, whether it's the 5th linebacker or the 6th corner or the 6th wide receiver. You don't need your 6th wide receiver to be the one necessarily who catches all the passes. Your 6th wide receiver, your 3rd running back, your 5th linebacker, they don't need to be good at linebacker, running back, and wide receiver as much as they need to be good at special teams.
Mm-hmm.
And on offense, if you're Malik Heath or Grant Dubose, and Matt LaFleur is looking at both of them, he's probably not going to throw the ball to either of them all that often. Malik Heath had 15 catches last year. He's going to need them to block on a run play. That's how Malik Heath got banged up yesterday in practice. He was blocking out wide on a running play. And who's more reliable in that regard right now? It's Malik Heath. So sure, you can watch practice and say Grant Dubose has been making more plays. Wide receivers, they catch the ball. Yes, but the 6th guy is going to have to play special teams and block. And Malik Heath might be that guy right now.
I mean, I guess we're going to find out. The coaching staff has 3 days to figure, or 3 games to, get some tape on these guys. And, we've also talked about the fact that, it's not a 53-man roster necessarily, because you still have a practice squad that you can, put some of these guys on as well. And you're also, for them, they're creating tape for the 31 other franchises in the NFL. But yeah, I mean, if you're not a star in the NFL, and most of the team's rosters are not made up of stars, you got 22 starters, obviously, and then the specialists. Special teams is so incredibly important. And if you're not one of the top wide receivers, for example, you better figure out some other way to be valuable. I mean, we see that in all walks of life. If you've got versatility, you're probably going to be able to find a spot somewhere. And, that's never more true than it is in professional sports. I mean, how many, you're a big baseball fan too. How many times have there been guys that have been able to play 12 different positions? I know there's only 9 on the field. But that's why they stick around, because they've got that positional versatility. They may only hit, 220, but if you can play shortstop, second base, right field, and catcher, you're probably going to stick around on a roster that's only 26 men.
Sure. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And my point is, that's just something to factor in. It's not always the flashiest guy. It's not always the one who catches the most touchdowns, who you see on the highlight reel. Different things are required of you based on where you are in the depth chart. The battle that I think I'll be watching closest, and it'll be tricky to watch, is the kicker battle. Because during practice, normally what the Packers do with their kickers is, on days where Greg Joseph and Andres Carlson both kick, they each kick 3 times at once. Carlson will go, then Joseph, then Carlson, Joseph, Carlson, Joseph. And then 45 minutes later, it's Carlson, Joseph, Carlson, Joseph, Carlson, Joseph. And they'll kick 6 or 7 times during a practice. Maybe once at the end of a 2-minute drill.
Right.
They can't just stop a preseason game, trot both kickers out there, and have them kick 3 field goals at a time. They would love to, but this is going to be interesting how they divvy up reps.
Right.
Because the Packers may only get a couple opportunities to kick. Extra points, field goals, the kickoff obviously factors into this more now. So do they give one kicker a half each? Do they give the guys a full game? Have they seen enough in practice where they don't need to maybe see guys in a full game? It'll be interesting, because as much as guys and gals were down on these kickers after their 4-for-7 day yesterday into the tornado-like wind, or 2 days ago that was, because Alex Hale kicked yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Greg Joseph and Andres Carlson from 40, 44, 49, 47, 50, and 51 both went 6 for 6 today.
Well, so, you talked about lighting a fire under their ass.
I don't know if Alex Hale lit a fire under their ass.
I don't know. But I know that Matt was asked about it earlier. I think Bill Huber was the first one. Why are you bringing in another kicker? And Matt LaFleur just talked about, well, we like competition. We like competition for the guys. This is the fifth kicker that they've brought in.
It's not competition, Doug. It's not them trying to push these two guys. Or
that's
they're
just
not
what
happy.
Matt said.
Yeah, but he's going to say that.
I know.
I can guarantee you it's because, and we were talking about this before the press conference this morning in our office, I think it's because Carlson and Joseph are not going to kick every day. So they don't want. There was one practice earlier in camp where Carlson and Joseph weren't kicking that day, and they had like a fourth down during they had a 2-point conversion during a 2-minute drill. They were down 1. Maybe the design was to go for 2 anyway, but there were no kickers to kick. And I don't know if they want to be in that position where they just don't have kickers to kick. So that's why they brought in Alex Hale, not only to eat up reps, but I also think to get a look at him. And I wrote this or said this yesterday. Everything blends together now. But I also think it's because they want to look at a guy who they think could be a practice squad kicker. And the only way it would make sense if they thought Hale would be a practice squad guy is if they think whoever they cut out of Joseph or Carlson will be claimed. Now, I think my updated tally is Carlson's 37 for 47. Joseph is 40 for 37. There was one day where Carlson, I think, went 4 for 7 or 3 for 6, and Joseph made all of them. Other than that, they've been pretty much the same. So it's neck and neck right now, I think.
You've covered the NFL for more than a decade, right? You're 8 years.
No, this is year 8.
Okay, so year 8. I've covered it a few years longer than you. I don't ever recall more than 2 kickers in the span of one offseason going into a season being brought in by a team. And I remember them because, in 1997, that's when they drafted Brett Conway. He got hurt, but they also had Ryan Longwell, and Ryan Longwell stuck with the team. Brett Conway didn't. In the 80s, they had Jan Stenerud and Eddie Garcia because Jan Stenerud couldn't kick off. That's the only time I remember them bringing in multiple kickers. Now, sometimes they've had an extra kicker here in camp, but 5 and 3 on the roster at the same time during training camp. Next week, I will celebrate 30 years of covering the Green Bay Packers, or at least covering the NFL. I went away for a few years, but came back. 30 years, 5 kickers and 3 in camp has never, in my entire career of covering football, has ever happened.
Doug,
Never.
I honestly think, because I think they can afford to use a 90-man roster spot on a kicker. And I honestly think it's just practice squad tryouts.
Okay.
I don't think James Turner or James Turner, is that his name?
I think so.
Or Jack Podlesny.
Yeah.
Or Alex Hale have ever had a chance to beat out Carlson or Joseph.
Probably
I think they're
not.
just trying out guys for the practice squad in the instance that whoever they release out of the top 2 kickers gets claimed.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
Right. I think it's as simple as that.
Okay. All I'm saying is I've never seen it. That's all. I've just never seen it.
Well, maybe it's because the Packers didn't like how it went with Anders Carlson last year as a guy who was uncontested. They didn't not just have a second kicker during camp. They never had a kicker on the practice squad all season.
No, I know. Hey, listen,
Maybe
I love competition. When they signed Greg Joseph, I'm like, this makes sense. Absolutely, it makes sense. And just have them have a kickoff, because Greg Joseph is a guy who's he's bounced around the NFL a little bit, but he was with the Vikings the last couple of years. He's had some success. You let these guys figure it out. Whoever the better kicker is the one that's going to make the initial 53.
Yeah, it'll be fascinating to see who handles the bulk of stuff.
Because, for many years when they had, Ryan Longwell, before him, Chris Jackie, and then obviously Mason Crosby for so many years when they were, steady. I know Mason had some yips here and there, but when they were steady, you didn't have kicking competition. Sometimes you'd bring in another kicker just to give the other guy a blow. But beyond that, they've been pretty lucky to have as many decent kickers over the last 25 years as they've had.
Sure.
And last year they struggled. Last year, the rookie Anders Carlson, he struggled. There's no question about it. So it made sense to have a second guy, but it'll be interesting.
Makes sense. Will be interesting. We got to get to one more break. On the other side, we got two more position battles to get to. I want to talk about the swing tackle battle. We've tackled backup quarterback. We've tackled second starting safety. We've tackled kicker. We've tackled sixth wide receiver. Let's talk about the swing tackle battle, because if there's any team who knows that you need depth at offensive tackle, it's the Green Bay Packers. Is the swing tackle right now even on the roster?
It's a good
We'll
question.
touch on that after the break, right here on the Matt Schneidman Show on The Game.
There's no one taking your place since you've been gone. that you're holding back.
A lot of nice weather and outdoor golf to be played, so Iron Jock wants you looking, feeling, and smelling good doing it. Now through August 18th, take 35% off of Iron Jock's entire golf line, which are their polos, vests, and quarter zips. 35% off with promo code 35GOLF. That's the number 3, the number 5, and the word golf. You need me to spell that? I don't know what to do.
I think
IronJock.com for details. That's IronJoc.com. This weather lately, it's good Iron Jock weather. It's not too hot, not too cold, but it's good like Iron Jock weather.
It's
long
great.
Sleeve, the polo.
It's great Iron Jock weather because even when it is hot and hot out, you don't stink. So, yeah, I the vest is great. The polos are fantastic. The t-shirts are great. The sweatshirt is my favorite sweatshirt. It will always be my favorite sweatshirt. But it's just the perfect weight for everything. And even when you do get sweaty, because we all get sweaty, just wicks it right away. Silver ion technology. It's a beautiful thing.
Love the silver ion technology. One more position battle to tackle. We've been spending this show breaking down the minor Jordan Love injury scare and also a couple position battles to be watching starting in Saturday's preseason opener, battles that we've been watching throughout camp, but ones that will become amplified in Saturday's preseason opener. Backup quarterback, number 6 wide receiver, second starting safety, kicker, and swing tackle. Now, I went into the break saying, if any team knows how important offensive line depth is, specifically depth at offensive tackle, it is the Green Bay Packers. Mainly because of what they've been through with David Bakhtiari over the last couple of years.
And even before him, Brian Bulaga had trouble staying on the field too.
Yeah, and they've had guys like Schneidman,
Yeah.
and Rick Wagner, and Jared Valdir, and Billy Turner, although Billy was more of a starter, and Rashid Walker last year. They've always had fairly solid depth there. And you're always going to need it. I'm not saying Rashid Walker or Zach Tom are going to get hurt, but they need depth there. And there's a reason I'll be watching this battle closely, because that depth hasn't been too impressive so far. Matt LaFleur has said the offensive line needs to pick it up multiple times. It's why sometimes the quarterbacks have had trouble operating the offense, because there's been guys in their face all the time. Now, getting Zach Tom back obviously has rectified some of that pressure. But Kadeem Telfort, Caleb Jones, and Andre Dillard still might need to play this year and play important snaps. And it's not going to be all of them. It might be one or two of them, because one is going to fall by the wayside, at least one of them, after these preseason games in these next couple weeks. One of them is going to start on Saturday because Zach Tom's not playing. But who is it going to be? My guess is Kadeem Telfort. Andre Dillard started at right tackle to begin camp. Telfort took over for him. Caleb Jones has gotten some snaps with the starters. Neither of them have been overly impressive. They've each had their flaws, and granted, I will be the first to admit I'm no O-line expert. It's tough to evaluate O-line play when we are viewing from the side during practice. The all-22 view is the best to evaluate O-line running game play. We obviously don't have that at practice. But the Packers need one of those guys to really give them some confidence during the rest of the preseason, or else their third tackle, their swing tackle, might not be on the roster right now. Heck, I was joking at practice the other day. David Bakhtiari might be their swing tackle. Can you imagine that?
I mean,
No, I can't.
There's a reason he doesn't have a job right now, and I think it's because nobody trusts his knee.
Yeah. What do you think about where that situation stands right now? I've said several times, I don't know how comfortable I would be if I'm the Packers trotting out Jordan Love behind one of those backup right tackles, but they're going to get a chance to protect Sean Clifford at the very least.
Sure.
And one of them's going to need to rise above the rest to win that job.
I think it's very difficult to say right now. I mean, I suspect, like you do, that Kadeem Telfort is probably going to get the nod because Zach Tom isn't able to go, but you're going to see those other guys as well. And it's just difficult to see right now without having any game tape on any of these guys, this year, what they're going to look like. So I don't mean to use a football term. I don't mean to punt the question because it's a valid question. We just don't know. And we're not going to know until, these guys actually go up and try to block somebody. So that's one of the reasons. I mean, the overarching reason why I don't want most of the starters, including the quarterback, to play is not only because of Zach Tom. I just don't want to expose Jordan Love, for example, to unnecessary, exposure in a non-high leverage situation, put it that way. But especially without having, an experienced, good right tackle. If it was anybody in the offensive line, but specifically one of the tackles, I guess more specifically the left tackle, but the right tackle is important too. I don't, in my opinion, and I'm not the coach, I'm not paid to coach, I'm just paid to talk. In my opinion, it's not necessary. It's especially with Jordan having like a bit of a hiccup at the end of practice today. To me, it's not necessary. And it's a risk that's not worth taking.
Well, we're not paid to make the decision.
Exactly.
We're paid to talk about the decisions.
Sure. We're paid to question we're paid to question the decisions, though.
And we will question that decision. And here's to hoping it doesn't backfire, because guess what's a lot better for business? Jordan Love being healthy.
Absolutely.
And as a human, you never want someone to get hurt. So it's twofold there.
Sure. But I mean,
guy.
of course. But as this team goes, I mean, the Packers have so much wrapped up in their quarterback, as does every team that has a good quarterback. And if you don't have a good quarterback, you're constantly searching for a good quarterback. But the Packers feel like they have a good quarterback. I think they have a very good quarterback in Jordan Love. I just think you got to protect the asset. That's all.
We have a show tomorrow. I was going to score prediction for the preseason game, some real degenerate stuff there, but we have another show tomorrow.
That's if you're really, really a degenerate.
I had someone ask me today. I'm not going to say who. I'm not going to reveal their identity because it's truly shameful. I, as a sports bettor, I don't bet on the NFL since I'm not allowed to.
Sure.
Due to company policy, as I've explained on the show many times. Can't bet on the league you cover, per the New York Times. I had someone ask me today, and I didn't give them an answer. Who should I look for my DraftKings lineup for the Packers on Saturday? I said, excuse me? You're doing a DraftKings daily lineup for preseason football? My response was, the better question you should be asking is, what's the gambling hotline?
Right. What is Gamblers Anonymous? Gamble responsibly, people. Listen, Potawatomi,
shameful question.
The Potawatomi Sportsbook is, you need to come down to see this thing. If you haven't seen it yet, you're going to walk in and you're going to feel like you're in the best Las Vegas sportsbook that you've ever seen in your life. It's incredible on every level. Just do it responsibly. And they say do it responsibly. They don't want it. They want their customers to keep coming back.
Exactly.
So just play responsibly. Go ahead, play, make your investments. Absolutely. 1,000%. Just do it responsibly.
Do it responsibly.
That's all. And
that's all you got to do.
Preseason football, is there a bigger crapshoot when it comes to that stuff?
No,
I don't think there is. I don't think there is.
Not at all. Anyway, I'll probably end up betting responsibly on something this weekend, not the NFL. The Olympics have been fun.
Sure. You got your Yankees going on.
I bet on Noah Lyles about 2-1 to win the 100 meters. Hit that. That was a nice win.
Okay.
But we'll see what else is in store. What's in store tomorrow for this show? More preview of the Packers and the Browns. Maybe we get an update on Jordan Love. Maybe I'll reach out to someone to try and get an update. I don't think there will be much of one anyway, but Doug and I will be back tomorrow. Same time, same place. He's Doug Russell. I'm Matt Schneidman. We appreciate everyone listening. Talk to you tomorrow.